Over the last 9 weeks, I've attempted to eat and train like every Hashira from Demon Slayer. And today I'm gonna be eating the favorite foods of the stone Hashira, Gyomei Himijima. This is actually Riven's Dawnbringer sword from League of Legends, and it's one of my favorite swords I've ever 3D printed and made. Could you imagine if they had this in Demon Slayer? You'd just smacking people around.
For breakfast, I'm starting the day off with Takikomi Gohan. Now at first glance, it looks like just seasoned rice with a bunch of stuff thrown into a pot, and admittedly, yes, that's what it is. It's typically white rice mixed together with vegetables, meat, seafood, and a few other ingredients. But dishes like this actually go back over 1,000 years in the Heian period. Back then, rice was actually considered really precious and somewhat rare, so stretching it with seasonal vegetables or grains was fairly common. Not just out of necessity, but really a way of celebrating nature's bounty for what's in season. By the Edo period, which was 1603 to about 1868, soy sauce and miso actually became more readily available and were everyday seasonings. And Takikomi Gohan actually evolved thanks to those flavors. So in my case, I'm seasoning this with sake, mirin, soy sauce, fresh cut ginger, dried shiitake mushrooms, which is really important to use dried instead of fresh, a touch of salt, and one whole yellow onion. All of this gets put into your rice steamer or rice cooker and just jostled around a bit so all of the flavors are incorporated, and you just make the rice like normal. Now for this dish, I'm going to be using some pressed tofu. This is just a personal preference, and it's maybe something Gyomei would have actually enjoyed. I'll talk about some different protein options later, but for this pressed tofu, I'm making sure that I'm using about a medium firm tofu, putting it into my medieval tofu press, and if you don't have one of these, realistically, you can put tofu on a plate and throw another plate on top of it with some paper towels to drain any excess liquid. This only drains a little bit initially, but this is going to sit for about an hour just to make sure it presses all of that excess liquid out.
Now while the rice and tofu are working, I just have to tell you about Patreon. If you want to see some behind the scenes footage of some really interesting projects that I'm working on, things that I think you guys are going to love and things that I've never released on the channel before, head over to patreon.com/CHEFPK where you can support for as low as $1 a month. I have some of my old Food Wars videos up there, and I'm adding in some behind the scenes footage from a very special video that I'm making later this month. It's going to take a lot of time, so I hope you really like it. Okay, let's get back to this.
What's really interesting about Takikomi Gohan is how people started to make it their own. People began experimenting, adding mushrooms, burdock, fresh fish, or meats depending on the region, and the goal was to use things that you had readily available and that were local, especially for the time period. Now fast forward to the Taisho period where Demon Slayer takes place. Japan was modernizing really quickly, but in rural households, Takikomi Gohan remained a comfort food. It reminds me of something similar to the salmon daikon we had last week, or oden as you might find it today. But tofu remains one of my favorite toppings for anything.
The texture is almost like a soft or medium firm cheese. So good. Breakfast time.
Now making the rest of this dish is incredibly easy. I'm just using a small saute pan and seasoning the tofu with some salt, throwing the tofu onto the pan all at one time just because I have a bit of room to work with. This just gets seared on both sides. Admittedly, this topping is a little non-traditional for Takikomi Gohan. Farmers and families could cook everything in one pot, letting the rice absorb all those beautiful flavors of the dashi and the soy sauce and miso, and really whatever was on hand. In coastal areas, you might find something like octopus or clams in it, and in the mountainside, you might find more root vegetables or even maybe some wild game. So while city cafes were experimenting with Western dishes, things that Meat City would have loved, simple rice meals like this Takikomi Gohan stayed deeply tied to Japanese traditions. And that's why I really think it's the perfect fit for Gyomei. This is Takikomi Gohan, Gyomei's favorite food.
This does remind me of something like chanko nabe, something that sumo wrestlers would eat. The chanko nabe is usually a stew that will sit around all day that's usually served with rice, and it's really hearty but also really clean. There's not a ton of fats, there's not a ton of sugars at all other than what you might get naturally in vegetables. It also has some of my favorite foods, mushrooms and tofu. I love this setup right here. I probably should be making this for meal prep. This is gonna be a meal prep thing. Or it might be a new card in Cooking with Chaos. Look at that rice. Oh, here's the thing with cooking the rice like that. It takes on the flavor of everything you put in. So I'm getting a bit of mushroom, a little saltiness from the soy, you taste the ginger, but it also is a softer texture rice because you're adding in a bit more water and other ingredients to it. It's still really, really good rice, but it's not going to be the same kind of fluffy grains you might get if you're just cooking the rice on its own. That being said, the flavor is outstanding. Now what I really want to try is this combo, tofu and mushroom. Cheers. Dude, that's so good. You don't need anything else. You can put a little more soy sauce if you want it more salty, but This is fantastic. I'm gonna take this down, and then I have a Gyomei-sized workout after eating this meal. Let's do this. Now, I didn't really want to share this with him, but I'm going to tell you guys about today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Now, you can have Japan's best treats sent straight to your door with today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Each Tokyo Treat box comes loaded with hand-picked Japanese snacks, and this month's name is Tsukimi, or moon viewing. The moon viewing marks the end of the summer and the beginning of fall, which means all new treats to enjoy. Some of them, I think, are going to be my favorites and yours. You get an amazing looking booklet that tells you exactly what you're about to bite into. You get a little bit of information based on each snack and some history on where that snack may have come from. And when I tell you that this thing is loaded, it is truly loaded with a ton of snacks. And this month, I get a whole bag of specialty Kit Kats. These are the Mont Blanc Kit Kats. I eat my Kit Kats like a monster. It's kind of nutty, a little sweet, not overly sweet, which is interesting considering it's candy. I think it's strawberry candy. I did mention I also love the matcha cakes, so this is another one I want to give a try. I had this way too many times while I was in Japan. Cheers. The subtle, bittersweet matcha, fantastic. You know, I'm trying to tell them about Tokyo Treat. Whether or not you want something savory or sweet, we got you covered over at Tokyo Treat. Celebrate Tsukimi and experience Japan's moon viewing tradition from anywhere in the world with this month's Tokyo Treat box. You can use my code to get $5 off your first box. Now, I have to go watch him train. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know.
The Demon Slayers have to go through some insane training when training with the stone Hashira, but in my case, I'm having a chest day. I've changed things up slightly with my routines just to make sure that I don't further injure my shoulder because it's still recovering. I had a slight tear in it and I really don't want to exasperate it. So today I'm trying out a new routine where it's mostly just pushing movements. This is a basic split routine that you can find almost anywhere, and realistically, this is not the most important part of the day. That's going to come later when I try my stone Hashira training. That's going to involve throwing around Gyomei's weapon in an open field and hopefully not hitting anyone. The one thing I am making sure of is practicing my push-ups to see how it feels on my shoulder. After this workout, I'm ready to eat lunch. It felt like breakfast wasn't enough, and so I want something a little more substantial.
Now for lunch, I think I'm gonna have something very special. And where did this come from? Kit Kat? What flavor is this? I don't know, but it's good. Where was I? For lunch, I'm once again having eggs. Yes, I know we had eggs for a couple of videos, but eggs are super important during this time period. But I'm gonna try to make one of the hardest omelets ever to make. Whether or not it's gonna work, I don't know. But I want the omelet on top of that rice.
For lunch, I'm actually going to be pairing the Takikomi Gohan with something that I love, eggs. And in this case, an Omurice style omelet made famous by Chef Motokichi. Now this is technically a Yoshiku style dish, which is a Western inspired Japanese food, but it really does have a fascinating bit of history. Omurice was actually first created at Rengatai, a Western style restaurant in Tokyo around 1900, which was during the Meiji period. The chefs there wanted to create something approachable for Japanese diners while experimenting with Western flavors. So they combined a fluffy French-style omelet with Japanese fried rice, topping it with ketchup. One of my favorite Japanese foods, period. By the Taisho era, cafes known as kisaten started spreading rapidly, especially in cities like Tokyo and Osaka. These coffee houses were modern, Western-influenced spaces where young people, writers, and intellectuals all gathered to have a good meal that wasn't strictly Japanese. On their menus, you'd often find Yoshiku-style dishes like omurice, curry rice, and even sandwiches. Omurice represented Japan's growing embrace of Western culture while still keeping its heart, the rice. It was fusion before fusion, and in a way that really does reflect the Taisho era itself, a period caught between tradition and modernization, old ways with new ideas. Gyomei is both kind and incredibly strong. Together, they really do make the balance that defines him, just like the balance of new and old with Takikomi Gohan and a Western-style omelet.
Oh God, oh God. Don't fall over, please. I don't know if it's gonna open up. We'll see, but it looks really nice. Now, Chef Motokichi would open this thing up and hopefully reveal kind of an undercooked center. I did overcook the egg. It's a little bit brown on top, but let's see if we can at least reveal a jammy inside. Maybe. Ready? I don't know if it's gonna work. Oh! Oh! Hold on. Come on. Don't fall over. It's really tall. Okay. Okay, I see you, egg. Look at that. That is not bad. It's a little tall, so it kind of fell apart a little bit, but if we just turn it, no one has to know. Just hide this piece back here. Honestly, that's not a bad looking inside. I just kind of winged it. I haven't made this omelet in forever, and I thought this would be a really, really nice twist on Gyomei's favorite style of rice, having it this way. Plus the extra protein from leftover tofu from this morning. Let's do this. Now, realistically, you should be putting some gravy on here or some demi-glace sauce, but because I don't think Gyomei would actually eat anything super rich and heavy like that because he's always training, I'm gonna go with just the egg, the rice, and the tofu. My mouth is watering right now. I'm super hungry after my workout, so this is kind of a perfect meal in a lot of ways. A little higher than in fat than I normally would have, but eggs, tofu, and rice, man, you just need some veggies in there and you're good. I think there's a hidden mushroom. That counts. Cheers. Oh my God. I loved breakfast, but the creaminess of the egg, that just sets it off for me. Let me show you the ultimate bite right now. There is the ultimate bite. Jammy egg, the rice underneath, a little mushroom on this side over here, and a piece of tofu. Oh. Why is it that the simpler foods in Gyomei are just a little, cut above the rest for me? We had some crazy stuff. This is something I think I would eat literally every day. But now I have Stone Hashira weapon training. I don't know how this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try. I have a very particular thing I wanna do, and I don't know if it's going to happen.
Now, because I decided to film this on a holiday weekend, everywhere is busy, except for this park where I actually trained for the Blue Lock diet. So I figure, why not come full circle and get a little bit of Stone Hashira training in? This might hurt, and I think my weapon is slightly breaking, so the flail might go flying. For the past 9 weeks, I've been using this challenge as a way for me to be able to touch my toes. Week 1, I was nowhere close, but by week 9, I was getting closer and closer. I still maintained all of my same stretching exercises because I do feel like pre-stretching is healthy to get the deep stretches in, and now in week 9, I can do this. I can actually place my fingers underneath my toes. I haven't been able to do this in over 10 years. And knowing that I put in the work to reach this result goes to show you that hard work does pay off. At the start of this series, almost 9 weeks ago now, I wasn't able to do that. Yes, it took time, it took a lot of pain, a lot of effort, and a lot of dedication, but I told myself, this is something I wanted to do. My hope out of all of this is that you got something out of this series. Touching your toes seems like something so trivial to really care about, but if you care about something, put some time into it, whatever that might be, and you'll probably get good results. Now, I have to try the thing that I kind of care about, but seems very dangerous. And that thing is a simple butterfly kick. I say simple because I used to be able to do this relatively easily, but I haven't been able to do them that well. One of you guys in the comments told me to kick my leg a little bit more, so I'm really trying to put the effort into it. And yes, I do read basically every comment, so please be nice to each other. But the butterfly kick isn't the reason why I'm out here on this field. I'm out here on this field because I have a very dangerous weapon I want to play with. And that is Gyomei's weapon of choice. It's a one-handed axe on one end and a ball and chain with spikes on the other end. This is the most medieval weapon I think I've ever seen, but seeing Gyomei use it just gives me so much hype. He's an absolute master at both offense and defense with this weapon, and that's what I want to try to achieve. Now, this really does remind me of the rope spear used in martial arts, but swinging around this ball and chain while being fun is dangerous because said ball and chain is attached with plastic and it likes to fly away. I kind of had a feeling that was gonna happen because the links are made of plastic, so that sucks. We're gonna try to field repair this. I had to use a little bit of ingenuity to get a new link on this, but I was able to reattach it together. Let's try that again, shall we? It might break again. I don't know. It's cheap. I got it on Amazon. You know, the real one would never break. Ever. I was actually really sad to have this break on me, even though I was able to repair it because I was just getting into it. What was really interesting is I started to feel like this was similar to my training that I had done with Toji a few years ago. The 3-section staff really did set me up to be able to use Gyomei's weapon somewhat well. I actually just practiced the same movements I know with my 3-sectional staff, like this ground flower technique that I've practiced before. I have never ever used this weapon until today, and I am so stoked at how it feels. It's definitely falling apart a little bit. Like you can see where it's being anchored is being yanked out. So that's fun though. I think I've translated my Toji training to Gyomei training. That's pretty awesome. Okay, that's cool. Now, one last thing I really wanted to try was doing a butterfly kick with Gyomei's weapon, but I just wasn't confident enough using this thing. My worry was that this flail was going to fly straight into my face and I would end up like Vampire Michael Jackson Muzan.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having fun, and I think now it's time for some dinner. I'm really looking forward to dinner, and I think Gyomei would actually really love this.
I have to admit, that was some of the most fun I've had on this series, and I'm so glad I decided to not go to the park where the little children were, because once that ball and chain broke, I was terrified. I was so glad no one was around to get smacked in the face. Unless it were Vampire Michael Jackson, who was not present because it's sunlight outside. And before I reveal what dinner is, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's watched the 9 videos I've made on this series. Demon Slayer does mean a lot to me, and I love this anime, and I'm so excited to watch Infinity Castle when it drops next week, and I'm not excited to wait 4 more years to finish it. And even though I did accomplish my own goal of touching my toes, I'm still going to be giving away free movie tickets to anyone who signs up for the newsletter over at cookingwithchaos.gg. Thank you to everyone who's purchased a copy of Cooking with Chaos, my infinite recipe card system with 60 different recipes you can mix and match to make brand new meals every single time, because honestly, this channel wouldn't be here without you and without Cooking with Chaos. I'm confident you'll love this if you pick it up, and I'm going to be at Rose City Comic Con showing it off in person if you're going to stop by. So thank you to everyone so far for watching this video, watching this series, and being here on the channel and supporting what we do. I have some really interesting plans for the future, so make sure you get subscribed and check out patreon.com/CHEFPK for some behind the scenes stuff. Now, let us make dinner.
For dinner, I'm actually making Takikomi Gohan alongside Tonkatsu. Tonkatsu has its roots in European cuisine, and in the late 1800s, Western restaurants in Japan started serving breaded cutlets inspired by French and Italian style cutlets. Now, from what I could gather, this dish actually first appeared in Tokyo in 1899 at Rengatai, the same restaurant that gave us the Omurice for lunch. At first, it was beef cutlets, but over time, pork really did become the standard since it was cheaper and much more accessible. By the Taisho era, tonkatsu was considered a modern meal, hearty, filling, and very different from Japan's traditional fish or vegetable-based diet. Restaurants would serve it with rice, miso soup, and shredded cabbage to really balance out the richness. Every tonkatsu-style restaurant I had visited in Japan served it this way: fried pork, side of rice, cabbage, and maybe some pickles, and it's all you needed. Middle-class families, students, and workers were really drawn to it because it symbolized that progress, modernization, and the changing times. That's important because this was a time Japan was industrializing, urbanizing, and embracing Western technology and culture. Tonkatsu wasn't just food, it was truly a statement. Eating it more or less meant participating in a new Japan.
Now hear me out. I'm going to be making this in the air fryer for 2 reasons. 1, I actually don't want that much grease today. I feel pretty good, and eating anything super heavy doesn't really sound good to my belly. And 2, we have a wind hashira and we have the fire or flame hashira. Combined, they make Airfryer Hashira. It's simple math. I guess that technically means Airfryer Hashira is more powerful than Sanemi and Rengoku. Think about that.
Would that make Gyomei a meat tenderizer? I'm not quite sure, but it just makes sense. Tonkatsu feels like the perfect choice for his dinner. It's protein-packed, hearty, and filling, but what it really reminds me of is when I sat down to have dinner with one of the greatest karate champions in Japan, Nick Pettis. A few years ago, he invited me over to his home to have a karate-style meal. It was a meal filled with lots of love, laughter, and incredibly good food.
Okay, let's see. This is the true test, right? I think it's good.
With the crispy scrape test out of the way, the last thing to do is to plate up a ton of this pork on top of the rice. I've been eating this rice all day, and I can safely say I am not tired of it. I would eat this rice the entire next day too, because it's so versatile and I really love the flavor here.
That's how I let Rachel know that food is ready.
Takikomi Gohan with pork tonkatsu. And if this meal isn't fit for Gyomei, nothing is. This is the final meal of my Hashira journey.
This is the final meal of my Demon Slayer Taisho era series. It's pretty fitting to me that I think this is going to be one of my favorites. Gyomei so far has had no misses. And I think it's because I just didn't want anything extravagant. Last week when I trained as Gyu, the water Hashira, I really did like taking a bit of time off and just reflecting on this past 8 or 9 weeks now. And I think it all culminates to this bite. Cheers. The pork still has a pretty nice crust on it, even though it was done in the air fryer. It's nice and salty from the seasoning. It's still pretty juicy, and It goes perfectly with this rice. I need another bite. This series was a ton of work, and thank you guys for sticking it out and being here. Remember, I'm still giving away some Demon Slayer movie tickets if you sign up for my newsletter over at cookingwithchaos.gg. That way you guys can enjoy Infinity Castle on me. If you want to pick up my brand new infinite recipe card system, Cooking with Chaos, you can also check that out at the link down below or at the QR code right here on screen, or come see me at Rose City Comic Con, September 5th through the 7th. Make sure you get subscribed to see the next chapter of this channel. My name is Chef PK, and remember, keep playing with your food.